Welcome to another segment of Recovery Live Global. I am your host, Jesse Washington, and we have with us today Ms. Valerie Kelley-Bonner. And we thank you for gracing our platform today with Recovery Live. We've been talking about this, taking Recovery Live to the next level. And I've been in some communication with Wayne County, and they have asked me to begin to interview providers, not just individuals. And so this is, my first provider that I'm interviewing today. And so it's going to be a great show. It's going to be a great show. We've been talking before the show, and we covered a lot. And I like what I've been hearing. So I'm going to ask Miss Valerie Kelley-Bonner, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, what was your motivation to jump out here and take on the responsibilities of actually becoming a provider to be able to help the population, the disenfranchised world that we work with, and the people that we touch on a regular basis? What was your motivation? Where did it come from? You came. It's almost like you can't be taught this. It's almost something, it's got to be inspired, it seemed like. So talk to us. Tell us, what was your motivation?
My motivation?
Yeah.
Started when I was working at Mound Prison, and I had 120 inmates, and I was doing a reentry program. And as a result of that program, I was aggregating data and having focus groups and conversations with those gentlemen. And they said to me, I probably wouldn't be in prison if I had someone like you when I was in 5th grade. That resonated with me.
Okay.
Because here I am, I think I'm doing prevention work when really I'm not. I'm intervening. And so I had to have a talk with the Lord, and the end result of that conversation was make your dash count.
Okay.
Because I was born in 1964, and then that obituary is going to read 1964 dash, and whenever I die.
Right.
And my inspiration was to be the voice for the voiceless, take on taboo topics, and take a stand when everybody else is sitting. And so my motivation is to make my dash count.
Amen. That's something right there. You don't look at it. People don't look at it like that. Make my dash count.
Mm-hmm.
And so given that, make my dash count, you say you was working in the penal system at that time. And you said that that one of the individuals that was in the population made a comment to you that if I had met you when I was in grade school, or when I was 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, it was a possibility that I may not even be here today. And so then you made a comment that this is not prevention, what they call it. It's intervention, because it's in the process of recidivism and restoring a person back to where they was at. But the better fit is to intervene in a person's life before they get there, without the battle scars, without the trauma, without the drama, without the things that they had to go through to get there. If we could have, and I like that comment, I got that, it dropped down in my spirit when you said prevention, catch them early so that they don't have to come back. Now it's hard to get them to see it, because I got to break through the trauma. I got to break through the addiction. I got to break through the failed marriages. I got to break through all of that have happened in a person's life when I could have got it early on. Prevention is key. Prevention is key. If I could get it early, then it's a possibility that I don't have to live that life and then try to change that life and then come back and then try to live now with all of the scars, the battles, and things like that. Let's talk about that part again, too. You said the prevention piece, what you heard from so that was the motivation piece.
That was the motivation.
So what did you do after you heard that? You stood up? What you do?
Well, what was interesting, SOAR stands for Strategies to Overcome Obstacles and Avoid Recidivism. I
Okay.
turned it into an acronym, so we call it SOAR for short. And so at that time, I took to heart what they said.
Mm-hmm.
And I started redeveloping the program and what that looked like. So that led me to working with the children of formerly incarcerated or incarcerated individuals.
Okay.
So going into my city, and I'm going to call it my city because I'm from the city of Inkster,
Okay.
taking a look at like, wow, when I grew up, what things happened in my environment
Mm-hmm.
that could have resulted in me being in prison. It's by the grace of God that I've never went down that road.
Okay. Okay.
By the grace of God. So when I started looking at that, my mother was a teenage mom,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's one of the risk factors they'll say. You know, living in the city of Inkster, which they will say is predominantly Black and low income. That's a risk factor,
Okay.
right? Not having pro-social activities to be involved in. And it's not that they didn't exist, but by my mom being a single mom, not having the money or time to put me into those things, that's a risk factor,
Okay.
right? So when you look
Yes.
at all of these risk factors,
Okay.
where do the protective factors come from? If this cycle within our generation and our community exists, and it does,
Mm-hmm.
where will those protective factors come from for these children? They're going to come from me.
Wow. So here I am.
Here I am.
Send me.
Let's serve.
Okay. Okay.
And that's how it came about.
Okay.
Just realizing I made it out. And I must be real transparent here because I can't be anything other than that. My mother used to tell me, when you graduate high school, you get as far away from here as you possibly can. I didn't go as far as I possibly could physically. I've traveled the world.
Okay.
But as far as residing, I came right here to Belleville
Okay.
to live. And I never looked back. I went back to visit my mom, but I never looked back to do anything else. My programming started here with Van Buren Township Belleville kids,
Okay. So
not Inkster kids.
Okay.
But then the Harriet Tubman syndrome hit
Uh-oh.
and was like, you defied all of those odds. Or as some people say, you dodged all those bullets.
Okay.
How dare you not go back and get somebody else?
Amen.
How dare you not go back and get somebody else?
Okay.
And that's when I went home.
Mm-hmm.
So now programming still exists here in Belleville, but I went home to say, here I am. How can I serve?
Okay.
And when I look those kids in the eye, I can really tell them, I used to be you. Not in the form of a metaphor or anything. I walked these streets too. I rode my bike places that I wasn't supposed to also. I've done a lot of things, but I'm still here.
Okay. Okay.
Never met a perfect person, but I met a lot of good people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I want to be to you. I'm not perfect. I've made my mistakes in my lifetime. And as long as I am upright, taking in oxygen, I will make more. So I will never be a perfect person, but I will always be a good person.
Okay.
And that's what's most important to me.
And that's good. That's good. I'm glad that I'm meeting you. I met you on maybe a platform or two before, but not like this.
Up close and personal.
Up close and personal. I sent you over. I was in the room. But now I'm in the room. This your room.
Mm-hmm.
This your facility. And this environment is good. We're going to get some pictures of this environment too, because I think our viewing audience need to see. This is a global program. It's called Recovery Live Global. So we're not limited by walls and townships and cities and states and Wayne County, Oakland County, Macomb County. We're not limited like that. This is we've actually, Recovery Live have taken the walls off of how we present and where our message of recovery and healing and prevention is going to go. The walls is off now. So we get a chance now, and I thank God for our engineer that's working behind the scenes, making this happen. Couldn't do it without him. Mm-hmm. I thank God for that part. But we now can open the walls, and you said something. I mean, you done said something 2 or 3 times that kind of like make me gravitate toward your vision, your wisdom, your ideas. You said that I came out and people told you, don't go back, don't go back, don't go back. But you purposed in your heart to go back there. Now that's saying something. Mm-hmm. Most people, when they get out, no, I ain't going back. Mm-hmm. But to get out and then to go back and, like you say, grab the hand of another baby sister, grab the hand of another baby brother, grab the hand of another person that's going through what we going through. And I tell you something, we got to go back, because who's going to do it? Who's going to do it with the passion? You know, people do it for $1. They do it for prestige. They do it to be somebody and all of that. But to go back, not to be somebody, but to help somebody.
Well, you know, and sometimes you go back out of necessity. You know, when my mom is still alive, when you hit rock bottom, you go home to mama, right?
Okay.
So it wasn't out of necessity of me needing the bottom level of Maslow's hierarchy. Mm-hmm. It was knowing that what I have been given in my heart and my soul is an assignment to serve.
Okay. Yeah.
And if I'm not serving those who are most vulnerable, who am I fooling? Certainly not God.
Okay. Okay.
So at that point, and let me say this also, and I mean this in the most honest way possible. I also feel like growing up, we had everything we needed in our community as far back as I can remember. You know, it was not much I needed as a child because my parents were responsible for everything that was required. But I remember going to the doctor in my community. Dr. Young and Dr. Franklin were my doctors.
Okay.
Right? Going to the pharmacy. Mr. Graham was the pharmacist. Everything we needed was in that 4 square mile radius of the city of Inkster. Then when desegregation happened even more, gentrification and all of these other things dispersed us. Mm-hmm. And we started moving to other places and did not look back. Mm-hmm. Because we looked at like, we free. Wow. We made it out.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And so that's a mentality that a lot of us have. Mm-hmm. Like, I made it out. I don't need to go back there. I read about it. You know, I see what's going on with it on the news, or I read about it or whatever. And we have opinions and judgments about what's going on in inner cities and places like my hometown, but nobody's really putting their money where their mouth is and going back and doing something about it. It's easy to talk about it, but it's hard to be about it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You have to walk that talk.
Amen.
And the kids need us.
Yes.
With that school system being dismantled, they have no schools. Kids are getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get ready for school to catch a bus to be bused. How do we go backwards? Busing stopped.
Wow. But so they busing them back to school again.
Yes, there's no schools. Well, there are a couple of charters, but I'm saying when they dismantled the public school system, so now we have all of these risk factors that have been perpetuated by systemic racism and other things. I couldn't sit back and just watch that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I got my education from Inkster High School, and I'll stand toe-to-toe with anybody. Uh-oh. As far as my knowledge base is concerned, my foundation is solid.
Amen.
From that school district.
I know that, and especially when we had a brief conversation before this interview, some of the things that you have done now and the accomplishments that you have made. Now, you talked about science. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I was a scientist at Park Davis before. I've worked in engineering at Ford Motor Company. And those life experiences from being in Inkster. Now, let me say this. My mother moved one time. We lived in Inkster, what they call across the road. Okay. And that was across Inkster Road. You and I had that conversation. So when you're on that side, that's kind of like Robichaud Bulldog territory, and you're on the other part of Inkster. My mother moved from there to where she resides now and raised us as a result of my brother being born, needing a larger house, and the school system was a little bit different because where the lines were drawn. Right after she moved, they drew the lines again. And I was unable to go to the schools that she had in mind. And she said, I'm not going to keep moving. Mm-hmm. It's time for you now to realize what your life could be like, what your life should be like, and what your life is.
And it's not geographical.
And it's not geographical.
It's a mindset. Mm-hmm. You hear what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like you could be locked up and free, and you could be free and locked up. It's a mindset.
Yes. And that's exactly what it means. And that's why we have to change the mindset of the children in our own when we're talking about prevention.
Okay.
We have to understand. I started a charter school once, New Beginnings Academy in Ypsi. And I remember having all of these teachers come from Teach for America, like, I want to teach inner city youth. So I would take them and say, okay, let's go for a ride. And I would show them around. And when I got to the core of the South Side, I don't know if you've been South Side, Ypsilanti, got to the core of the South Side, I think they call that store Bud and Joe's.
Okay.
Right there. So I look at them and say, okay, well, you can get back to the school straight down this street. When you get to Michigan Avenue, turn left, go down the hill, there's the school. So I need you to get out and walk back. Pearl clenching.
You say pearl clenching?
Yeah.
Oh, they had to...
Walk back? You're afraid to walk back from this point in time to the school where you say you want to teach these inner city kids.
Wow.
They walk in this environment every day. That's how they get to school. If their parents don't bring them,
okay,
they walk this street, the one that I'm telling you about.
And you can't walk the street.
And you can't walk it just...
But you want to come and teach.
But you want to come and teach. Not a good candidate. Next.
Uh-oh.
Right?
That's
because
something.
we have to be... We cannot be afraid of what these children and individuals are going through and help them. Because you're already judgmental just for the simple fact of your fear has paralyzed you in some regard. Mm-hmm. So you're never going to see the full vision of what's going on. If you're scared of me and my environment,
then how you going to impact my life?
You cannot.
And I tell you something, children are pretty perceptive, and they can see. Mm-hmm. And they can respond to you based on how you want them to respond, but not feel you. Mm-hmm. You hear what I'm saying?
I understand.
They can see right through you, see right through what you're trying to bring. What's from the heart, reach the heart. And so we have to be important. And I thank you for, you say you took your participants for employment for a ride and asked them was they willing to walk through the neighborhood that they wanted to teach in, and some of them couldn't do it. Mm-mm. They couldn't do it. That was a good job interviewing process to be able to weed out, who's coming in and who's going to make a difference. Mm-hmm. Because you got to have passion.
You have to have it.
Passion. Vision follow passion. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Somebody got to be passionate. And that'll birth a vision, and then resources follow vision. So they got to line up like that. And so that's some good stuff, man. It's some good stuff.
Well, I had another instance, and that instance was here in Belleville.
Okay.
And at that particular time, they had a lot of Black and brown individuals come into this community. Mm-hmm. As a result of that, it changed a lot. And so any and everything that just about went wrong around, it was based on the influx of more minorities and not anything else per se.
Okay.
As a result of that, they had concocted a alternative school environment, which we know now we have plenty of them, but this was back in the day where it wasn't as commonplace. They put up some modular trailers right down the street, and when the kids acted up, got some failing grades, fought, whatever it was, okay, well, you're going to alternative. Almost like it was punitive. Well, that's when I had first started this business. We're talking 20 plus years ago. And so I said, I'm going to go to the school and ask them, could I start my program there? And they allowed it. After some hoop jumping, but still, they allowed it. And I would have the kids and we would have a good time after school. But the next day when they got back into school, the behavior didn't change. So they would tell me, well, your program is not working. So thank you, but no thank you. They didn't pay me for the program now. I had funding.
Okay.
But they were saying, it's not working. So we don't know if we need your services. Hold on. No kid has ever punched me in the face in the program. They don't call me out of my name. They don't throw chairs. They don't do anything like that. And if you don't believe it, come and observe it for yourself. So that you will understand that the issue is not that I am not effective. It is that you are ineffective.
Yeah, because they're still acting out with you.
Exactly.
But they're not acting out.
They're not acting out with me.
Okay.
And part of that is maybe cultural competency. Part of that could be classroom management. I don't know what it is because I haven't had an opportunity to observe them in your environment. But for you to tell me that my program is not working because you don't see a change.
In the behavior with you.
Yes, in the behavior with you.
With you, yeah. Then they're going to say your program not working because the change don't take place in their program.
Exactly.
So they didn't want to give you credit
exactly.
for managing and overseeing the program. Man, that's something how people see things and the perception and things like that.
My kids graduated that were in my program. And I'm not going to I didn't have a 100% success rate.
Okay.
Lost a few to gun violence.
Okay.
But at the core of it, some of those kids I still deal with today. They have kids of their own now. And they still remember the love and authenticity. That's why they respected me. Nothing more, nothing less.
So now, I appreciate that. What happened, how it was. What about now? What's now? This 2023. What's now? You know what?
Wow.
Yeah. What's on the table right now? I mean, what you doing right now? What's on the table right now?
So we still have our legacy program.
Okay.
We still do prevention in the form of life skills coaching, suicide prevention, and things of that nature, working with the youth. We are in Inkster also, and we do have some programming out here.
Okay.
We are in Inkster in the Denby housing complex, and so we're there. But we have evolved.
Okay.
We have a harm reduction program now.
Now that's power. I mean, harm reduction. I think I heard that term a few years back, and me being dinosaur couldn't grasp the concept surrounding harm reduction. I thought it was abstinence. I didn't know that you could counsel a person in the way of harm reduction, which means the gradual progression of change. I thought this it. Stop it. Stop it. And I wouldn't, I didn't want to get involved with passing out my thinking was, if I'm going to give you a syringe, that's motivating you to continue to use.
I might as well give you the dope. That's what most people say.
I mean, like that.
Yeah.
But really, giving you a syringe put you in the position that you didn't have to use hers and here's and here's to contract some kind of
HIV and Hep C and
all of the other dynamics,
yes.
but I couldn't see it. You know, I said to give out a condom, you know what I'm saying, to a teenager, you motivate them to go do it. You know what I'm saying? But then when I talked to the guys at the church, they said, don't tell nobody, but we all doing it already.
Yeah, well, you know how I explain it is a couple of ways. Number one, we practice prevention every day. When you put your seatbelt on, is that perpetuating driving erratically? You put your seatbelt on in case of an accident.
In case you have an accident. Yeah.
That's prevention, though. You don't want to go through the window.
Correct.
And when you take your high blood pressure pill or your diabetes insulin, you still eat a pork chop at the repast.
Uh-oh.
Because you know you had that medicine in your system. That's prevention.
Okay.
That's harm reduction.
Wow. So I can see it. I can see it in my case, but I can't see it in other folks' cases.
Exactly.
And that's the piece that harm reduction is a big piece. And matter of fact, it's one of the latest modalities of interventions, harm reduction. And most clinicians and those who practice in any kind of human service field know that harm reduction is a great tool because it has brought people that couldn't get there. They're getting there now. They're getting there now.
We received a phone call to work with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services to try to decriminalize paraphernalia outside of the city of Detroit. Because city of Detroit had already introduced a paraphernalia ordinance. But out Wayne County or outside of the city, no one was doing harm reduction work legally. There were people boots on the ground, underground, doing the work. And so we were the first to get that done by going to the city of Inkster. I went home. I went home for a couple of reasons. Number one, first and foremost, I do have a bone to pick with this process because crack killed us for years and nobody ever came up with an antidote. It had to happen outside of Black and brown communities to get solutions. Now you can get Narcan free wherever you want to get it from. How many do you need?
Wow, I forgot about that part.
How many do you need? We're going to save lives. We are going to reverse these overdoses. Too many people are dying. How many people died during the crack era? There was no antidote. They didn't come to our communities and do anything about it.
So now it's new.
So
we could turn away an overdose now.
Yes, and so I went home. If I do this, let me go home.
Okay.
And it wasn't because of the familiarity. Maybe that's why the ordinance got passed in 30 days. Because they know my heart, my passion in my home. Right? But it was more about if I can do something. Why should I sit at a table and then bring crumbs back to my people? If you give me a seat at the table, it is for me to do what is best for my community that I represent.
At the table.
At the table.
And in the community once I leave the table.
Exactly.
I need to bring those resources back.
Exactly. And it's hard for me to compete with the larger conglomerates because they'll say, oh, well, you need A, B, C, D, E, F, G. No, we're a 5-person team here. We don't have 10 locations and 50 people or 100 people working, but we are effective with what we do. Those larger companies didn't get these ordinances changed. Is that because they couldn't or didn't want to? I don't know.
Okay.
But I will say, you know, we were successful in also getting the ordinance on the book in Van Buren Township. So that makes 2. Now, why didn't I keep going? I talked to city officials in Romulus. And I've talked to city officials in Belleville, and I've talked to a couple of people in Westland. But the reason why I stopped is because up until yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't buy harm reduction supplies with the funding that you receive. So I'm going to decriminalize paraphernalia in these areas. I'm going to enroll people in the program, but not have the capacity to give them the supplies because you won't provide them to me.
Mm.
I got an email yesterday, and perhaps they switched the funding stream. I don't know. Maybe it's COVID funding they're using. I don't know. But I got an email yesterday that I can now buy syringes with the funding. What?
Okay.
I am so excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a barrier. And I find sometimes as a provider, and I would call myself an independent provider. Let me put it that way. And I'll clarify what that means. I'm not a part of a larger conglomerate like Beaumont Hospital or, anything like that. I started this agency and I'm maintaining it according to the rules that everyone else plays by. But I just feel like it's very hard. It's very hard. This is a little fish trying to swim in a big pond.
Okay.
It's very hard.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't stop me from speaking my truth.
Yeah.
And speaking up on what I feel is right. And I felt that was wrong.
And a lot of times they'll say, well, we can't fund the little fish. The little fish got to connect with the big fish.
Yes.
And get up under their jurisdiction and their processes and things like that to even get in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But God is good.
He is, and I'm grateful and thankful.
And how he does things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I appreciate you taking the moment, taking the time out of your schedule to come and participate on Recovery Live Global Ministry. Is it anything that you would like to leave with the audience? Sometimes I think when I look in this camera, that is somebody playing with their computer, playing on their cell phone, and they done accidentally clicked on the station and you sitting there. Matter of fact, they on their way to the where they need harm reduction. They on their way to get one. They on their way. It's a girl out there playing with her phone, and she's struggling right now. Don't know what to do. Don't know where to go. I mean, what could we say in closing the show? What could we say to a person? This person could be in Chicago. They could be in New York. Mm-hmm. They could be in Africa or Kuwait. But they struggling right now. I mean, what kind of closing remarks could we just put out there to tell somebody that there's hope and you ain't got to do it? You ain't got to use it. You ain't got to shoot yourself. You don't have to jump off the bridge. That there is hope available for you. And we here at Recovery Live Global, that's our mission. Mm-hmm. Our mission is to give hope to a dying society. Go ahead, sisters. You can close us out.
What I would say is, you don't deserve to die because you get high.
Say that again.
You don't deserve to die because you get high.
Okay.
You do not have to feel like you're alone. You are not forgotten. There are people such as myself and Mr. Washington. We care about you. And we hope that we join forces with others that do the same. We're taking those small steps. We're small fish in a big ocean, but we're a piranha. And we're there to help you and to represent you. You are loved and you are not forgotten.
Amen. This has been another segment of Recovery Live Global. Tune in to us, share, like, and let people know about Recovery Live Global. And I'm Jesse Washington, your founder and host, and I have with me today Miss Valerie Kelley-Bonner, and we thank you for gracing our meeting today. And I'll see you next week.